The Forgotten Minotaur King. Side Quest 3. The Rijalisad Raksahsi Empire. Dozens of millennia before kingdoms, schools, and most concepts of society, the cave, sky, forest, and sea-dwelling ancestors of the future prominent races lived in constant fear. Fear of monsters over every hill or in every dark depth. Fear of divine and abstract beings they believed watched and punished those who went against their unknowable wishes. But most commonly, fear of those other beings so similar to themselves that dwelled in adjacent caves, forests, skies, and seas. Many wished only to protect what was theirs, or what was close to them. Some sought to gain more beyond their limited means, and others wished to advance all those around them and to no longer live in fear. One who is commonly contested, the former or the latter, was Chandraputra, born from the race of Raksahsi, a burly people that evolved from the large wild cats that prowled the plains of Dunya, the second largest continent on the planet. Chandraputra was the matriarch of a small pride, consisting of her 4 sons and 4 daughters. To look upon her, one would think of a crossbreed between a particularly rugged lion and a muscular white-furred tigress. The exiled family dwelled in a cobbled-together hut far from the other Raksahsi hovels, and just out of view of a newly bustling community of humans that had taken up residence in a large, natural, underground cave-like structure. The humans would decorate the outer walls of their cave with strange iconography of winged beings so bright that Chandraputra and family could always see it glowing in the distance. Why the family lived in seeming exile, Chandraputra would never tell her family. During a particularly dry season where game was scarce for the Raksahsi family, one of Chandraputra's sons took it upon himself to travel to this human community to ask for aid. The raucous noise and laughter the family heard every night from the humans implied that they were not suffering as the Raksahsi were. Upon entering, he was met with the expected level of fear and untrust one would assume from the arrival of a being so different to those of the community. However, some were able to put their prejudice aside and offer help. Through gestures and charade, they told the son their affluence was due to a divine being, an angelic force that kept their people alive, Rijalisad, the lesser god of memory and knowledge. The son was encouraged to meet Rijalisad and ask for aid. The following morning, Chandraputra awoke to the screams of her children. She rushed outside to see the 7 siblings crowded around their brother, who was weeping and screaming uncontrollably. What she saw was that his face had been scorched beyond recognition, and his eyes had been scalded from their sockets. A blinding rage overtook Chandraputra, and a power she hadn't felt since her youth enveloped her. She told her family to enter their home and bar the door until she returned. 7 days had passed with no word from their mother, during which time the kids fell deathly ill from hunger. The only thing that kept them hoping were the nearly constant screams that could be heard from beyond the human caves. On the 8th day, a loud rapping on the door disrupted the Raksahsi children from eating their animal hide clothing. With a crash, the entrance to the hovel collapsed as their mother, Chandraputra, covered in blood, scars, deeply embedded spear shafts, and a half-charred-away face, entered, wearing only a wreath of human skulls around her waist. Behind her, the youths could see she was dragging the lightly mourning corpse of a radiant humanoid figure, glowing with otherworldly light and adorned with 3 pairs of cerulean wings. She tossed the clearly divine being into the center of the room and gestured for the siblings to bring forth their wounded brother. With a swift clawing motion, she stripped a long section of flesh from the being and offered it to her son. As the creature, Rijalisad, screamed in agony, the burned and blinded son timidly ate the glowing, bloodless flesh. His wounds began to heal, and his eyes returned. He then began clutching his skull as vast amounts of knowledge entered in the blink of an eye. Chandraputra nodded for the other 7 to join in consuming the lesser god. When the vicious frenzy was nearly complete, and only a still, pain-expressioned head remained, Chandraputra herself feasted upon the brain of Rijalisad. After gormandizing the divine flesh, Chandraputra and her family were filled with otherworldly strength and minds beyond all their contemporaries. Their first decision was to return to their fellow Raksahsi and to take lead of their people, and someday perhaps the entirety of the Adima Dunya. However, it would be some time until they discovered the true gifts of Rijalisad, which they took as their family name. Many decades passed as the family traveled the continent and united their people. However, even demigods could fall victim to overconfidence. The youngest daughter fell afoul of an ancient bronze dragon she fancied for a good pet and mount. When the beast overpowered and killed her, the now titled Rijalisad family was distraught. But after a week or so had passed, a small, downtrodden Raksahsi family they ruled over approached Chandraputra and kin with their 1-week-old baby. The ruling family had no interest in the child until the tiny baby began to speak to them. It claimed to be their sister and gave them intimate details only the close family could know. It was a true reincarnation. That was when the family realized what the lesser god's gift of memory and knowledge could truly do for them and their burgeoning empire.